Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine.
And today we're going to be visiting one of my favorite places, I must say.
Really? So you're you're a big meat eater.
I am. I have to have meat every day, so that's why I usually go to the butcher.
All right, so vegetarians, be warned. Today's dialogue is all about eating meat and where to go to get meat. So as Marco said, that place is called the Butcher's.
So we're going to be visiting the butcher, and we're going to learn all the different types of meat you can find there.
Great. So we don't have anything to preview, but before we get started, just like to mention that you're going to hear a lot of different kinds of words, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about what they mean.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment. But we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes. It's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait. We have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So this butcher was kind of creepy in the beginning.
Very creepy in the beginning.
I think that's usually the conception that you have of butchers because they always have a knife and they're always covered in blood, but it's not human blood.
Right, like the movie Sweeney Todd. Did you see that?
Yeah, like Sweeney Todd.
Butcher of Fleet Street.
But we actually took a look at a lot of different types of meat that the woman was ordering. So why don't we take a look at these now in Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
Okay, so the first is a classic cut. This is something that we had at my house about once a week growing up. It's called a pork chop.
Pork chop. Mm-hmm. So a pork chop comes from the animal, the pork or pig.
Yeah, well, we actually don't say pork to mean the animal. Pork just means the kind of meat that comes from a pig. So big difference there. When we're talking about food, we say pork.
Oh, wow. And what about a pork chop? So what exactly is that?
Chop is usually just on the bone, and oftentimes it's fried. Or baked, I guess. But it's just a piece of pork on the bone, and a chop. You just imagine a knife chopping something.
All right, so a pork chop. Very good. And after pork chops, we were ordering some ground beef.
All right, so ground beef is another important one. Ground beef is beef that's been chopped up and pushed through a machine that kind of pushes it out in very, very small bits and pieces.
Okay.
There's no bones.
So ground comes from the verb to grind. Mm-hmm. So to grind up meat, to make it very, very small pieces.
Right, so if you want to make a spaghetti bolognese, the kind of beef you use is ground beef, or even hamburgers.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So ground beef, you ground up beef. What other things would you grind?
Oh, you could grind your teeth.
You can grind.
Some people do that when they're sleeping. They grind their teeth. You can grind, you have pepper grinders. You know, peppers sometimes come in balls, and you have to grind them to make them smaller and broken down.
Very good. So that's ground beef, and from the verb to grind. Now we are buying some boneless chicken breasts.
All right, so boneless, as you have guessed, means without bones. Mm-hmm. And chicken breasts are usually just a really nice, juicy, kind of tender cut of meat from the chicken, from the kind of underside of the chicken, where obviously Yeah, they have it. It's not a wing. It's not a leg. It's just a chicken breast.
All right. So boneless chicken breast. Now, usually it is boneless, right, when you buy it at the supermarket.
Yeah. Next up, we've got some classic deli counter favorites. These are our cold cuts.
All right. So cold cuts. Now, this means that they are cold?
Oh, well, yeah, they're cold. But I think cold cuts, the most important thing to remember here is that they're mostly like kinds of salami or cured meats. So these are salt cured or they're dried meats. And you usually have them on sandwiches. So like a salami sandwich.
So like cured meat, you mean that meat hasn't been cooked?
Oh, no, it's not been cooked, but it's treated in a way that allows it to last for a very long time.
All right,
so they look like long tubes of meat.
Or they look very dry. So
Look very dry, like
all
beef
right.
jerky, for example.
All right, so cured meat. Now, for example, we have salami and bologna.
Bologna.
Now, it's interesting because bologna is actually spelled B-O-L-O-G-N-A. So you would say bologna or something like that.
Well, I think it comes from the Italian Bologna.
All right.
But it's definitely a change that happened in the English language when it came over from Italy. But bologna is a kind of meat it's got a very funny looking name.
Yeah, see, you're more sophisticated than I am. That's why you know this difference.
I
between
just speak Italian, so no.
All right, so you have salami, bologna, and
Pastrami.
What about ham? Is that considered a cold cut?
You can have ham in the cold cut section because ham sometimes comes in tubes that you slice. But ham is also just a normal kind of pork. But ham is cured,
Like a smoked ham.
Exactly.
All
or
right.
smoked turkey, one of my favorites.
Very good. And, now moving on from the cold cuts, we're going to concentrate on steaks.
Ooh, steaks. So there are 1,000 kinds of steaks in this world, and every city seems to have its own kind. But here we're only looking at 3, the first of which is the T-bone.
All right, the T-bone steak, I think, is one of the most popular ones.
Definitely.
It's a steak that's pretty big, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it can be.
And it has a bone inside that looks like a T.
All right. So you're saying, Marco, that the T-bone is named after the shape and the look of this steak.
Yeah, T-bone steak.
All right.
And as well as our next one is also a rib eye.
Okay, so the rib eye, I think, actually has a piece of the rib in it. So the rib is the bone, and there's a circle, which is kind of the piece of meat is sliced off the rib, and the circle is actually part of that rib. So there's a little bit of bone in it, but it's not as bony as the T-bone.
Right. So it does have one small bone that kind of looks like an eye because you can see through it. And our next steak has no bone and is the most tender and the best steak you can have, sirloin steak.
So I think the sirloin is definitely the most expensive if you're in a restaurant. Definitely the most tender, I think, of all those
delicious.
kind of cuts.
And usually you can have like a big sirloin steak, like a half a kilo, like a 400-gram sirloin steak.
I had a friend who ate a full kilo
Really?
sirloin steak.
Wow. Is it a competition or?
No, there's a kind of steak called la bistecca alla fiorentina in Italy. It's the Florentine beef steak, and it can be about a kilo of meat.
Wow.
I
bet you can't even move after that.
No, you fall asleep with your head in your soup on the table.
All right, so that's all the meat-related words that we have for you today. So why don't we move on now to Fluency Builder, where we're going to take a look at some of the phrases in this dialogue.
Fluency Builder.
We're going to look at the phrases, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean. Now, I love this phrase, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Well, it's
I
weird.
like it too.
So you can use it for sarcasm,
Yeah.
right? Or you can use it to kind of insinuate something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what you're saying. You're saying there's a double meaning in what I want to say. So there's 2 things I could say, and I'm not going to say it outright, but this thing that we can't really say.
So, for example, we can say,
She likes to go out, if you know what I mean.
all right, so you're insinuating that not only does she like to go out, but maybe
Maybe she goes out a lot.
a lot, or maybe she gets drunk or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double meaning, but you're trying to be subtle.
Yeah, but it's not so subtle because you're actually saying, like, this is not what I mean. Or, she's eating for 2, if you know what I mean.
Oh, there we go. So you're insinuating that, well, you're not really insinuating, you're telling me that.
She's pregnant. Eating for 2 is a common idiom in English that means that a woman, is going to have a baby. So here I'm saying, hey, do you know this idiom? She's eating for 2, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink. So now, why don't we take a look at some other examples of how we could use if you know what I mean in different circumstances when you're trying to insinuate something.
Example 1.
She's eating for two now, if you know what I mean.
Example 2.
Tim hit a home run today, if you know what I mean.
Example 3.
Jim and Laura are going their separate ways, if you know what I mean.
All right, we're back. So now that that's clear, why don't we move on to our next phrase?
So this one is a counting phrase, and for those of you who have heard the word dozen before, it might not be so new. The phrase is half a dozen.
Half a dozen. So that means half of 12.
12. So a dozen is 12. And I'm not really sure when this started being used in English, but a dozen is 12. And half a dozen is then 6.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another phrase or another saying that's very common, a dime a dozen.
He's a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm. So that means you can get 12 of the same type of guys for 10 cents.
Right. So they're easy to find.
They're easy to find.
Yeah.
The dime a dozen. All right, very good. And moving on to our last one. When they were talking, they said something about the meat being lean, extra lean.
Okay, lean, this does not mean lean on a door.
Right.
This is not like resting on something. This is actually a kind of way to describe food.
Mm-hmm.
And so food is lean if it's not got much fat. It's not fatty.
Okay, so if it's lean, it doesn't have much fat.
Exactly. So I prefer to eat lean meats. So I often eat birds and poultry. So chicken, I like it pretty lean. And if it's got fat on it, I'll cut the fat off.
Oh, okay, like the skin. Mm-hmm. The skin is fat, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you can have lean beef. It doesn't have much fat around it.
Yeah, and in America, actually, on the packages at the supermarket, it often says the percentage of meat that you have. So it's 95% lean or 98% lean.
So that means you have 3% fat in there.
Exactly.
Or 2.
Or 2%.
My math skills are amazing. All right, so now that we've finished with all of these words on Fluency Builder, let's take a look at our dialogue for the last time.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment, but we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes, it's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait, we have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So, Catherine, are you a big beef or meat eater?
Definitely am. It helps that my partner in crime is from Kansas City, and they have the best, among the best steaks in our entire country in Kansas City. Yeah.
Wow. I actually miss, there was, back in California, we had the $6 burger from Carl's Jr. It was just basically beef, bacon, cheese. It was just like this huge burger with full of meat and obviously a lot of calories.
Oh, yeah.
But it was delicious. In Ecuador, we are very used to having some meat product every day with our food.
Yeah, well, it's the same in the Midwest, actually, from where we're from. It's the same in the Midwest because people in the Midwest generally think that if you're not eating meat, then what are you eating? Bread?
Right.
Corn?
Yeah.
So meat is considered a healthy part of the day, and you definitely eat it with your meals.
Yeah, and I'm sure our vegetarian listeners might not appreciate this, but it's just kind of different diets. Some people eat, for example, rice every day. Mm-hmm. So where in other countries you wouldn't really have rice every day. Or, for example, when I was in Chile, I had a lot of potatoes.
Really?
A lot of potato.
Have you ever had an Argentine steak? I hear they have the best beef in the world.
They are not only delicious, but they are very inexpensive, and it's amazing. You can have a complete steak buffet for like, I don't know, I can't even remember, but it was just, I sat there for 3 hours and couldn't move and kept eating.
Yeah, is it true you can eat it with a spoon? It's so soft?
Some of the meat is very, very tender, and not if it's grilled, you can't really do that, but in other preparations, it's almost like that.
With a nice butter sauce. Herbs.
My name is Sophie. I am 29 years old. I always believed in love. I thought marriage was forever. But I was wrong. I met Daniel 5 years ago. He worked in the same office as me. He was friendly and kind. Every morning he brought me coffee. Every afternoon he asked how I was feeling. I smiled a lot when I was with him. He was not rich. He didn't drive a big car. But he made me feel safe. He made me laugh. He said I was special. I started to love him. I thought he loved me too. One day he asked me out. I said yes. We went for a walk in the park. We talked for hours. I felt happy. It was simple, but it felt right. After a few months, he asked me to marry him. He said he didn't want to wait. He said life was short. I was surprised, but also excited. I said yes. We had a small wedding, just family and close friends. He looked at me with warm eyes and said, "You are my everything." I believed him. I believed every word. We moved into a small apartment. I loved our home. It was quiet and clean. We didn't have much money, but I didn't care. I thought love was enough. In the first year, Daniel was sweet. He helped with cooking. He made tea when I was tired. On weekends, we watched movies and ate together. He often told me he was lucky to have me. But slowly, things changed. He came home late. He said he had more work. He started to check his phone in another room. He took his calls outside. When I asked questions, he smiled and said, "Nothing is wrong." He didn't help much at home anymore. When I talked, he didn't listen. He seemed far away. Even when he sat next to me, I felt lonely. I started to worry. I asked him again, "Is everything okay?" He said, "Yes, just tired." I wanted to believe him. I wanted things to go back to how they were. One day, I made his favorite dinner. I cleaned the whole house. I wore the dress he once said he liked. I waited for him with hope. But he didn't come home. He came back very late. He looked surprised to see the food. He didn't even say sorry. He said I forgot, and went to take a shower. I felt sad, but I didn't cry. I just cleaned the plates and went to bed. At night, I stayed awake. I stared at the wall. My mind was full of questions. I thought maybe I did something wrong. Maybe he didn't love me anymore. One morning, I saw something strange. His shirt had lipstick on the collar. It was not my color. I held it in my hand for a long time. Then I put it back. I didn't ask him that day. I was too scared. But after that, I watched more closely. I saw perfume on his jacket. He never wore perfume before. He started using new words. He even changed his haircut. I was not stupid. I knew something was wrong, but I was still too afraid to speak. I thought maybe it would stop. Maybe he would change. Then one Sunday, he said he needed to go to the office, but it was quiet outside. I called the office phone. No one answered. I waited. I sat in the kitchen for hours. He came back in the evening. He looked tired, but also happy. I looked at his eyes. He smiled, but it was not the same smile I knew. I said, "Where were you?" He said, "I told you at work." I wanted to shout, but I didn't. I just looked at him and said, "I called your office." His face changed only for a second. Then he laughed and said, "I was in a meeting." I didn't believe him, but I didn't say more. I just went to the bedroom and closed the door. That night, I didn't sleep again. My mind was full of pain. I thought about our first days, the walks, the tea, the small jokes. I missed those days. I missed the man I married. The next day, I took a walk alone. I walked to the park where we had our first date. I sat on a bench and watched the people. I saw couples holding hands. I saw children playing. I felt like I was the only person there without love. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't want my parents to worry. I just wanted the truth. When I went back home, Daniel was watching TV. He smiled and asked, "How was your walk?" I looked at him and said, "I know you are hiding something." He looked surprised. Then he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You are not the same. You don't look at me like before. You lie about work. You smell different. I saw lipstick on your shirt." He didn't answer for a moment. Then he stood up and said, "I think you're tired. You think too much." He left the room. I sat there. My hands were cold. My eyes were dry. I didn't want to cry anymore. I wanted answers. That night, I waited until he fell asleep. Then I took his phone. I didn't want to do it, but I had to know. I looked at his messages. What I saw broke my heart. There were many messages from one woman. Her name was Rachel. She called him my love. She sent him photos. She asked him when he would see her again. He told her, "Soon my wife does not know." I stared at those words again and again. My wife does not know. He lied to me every single day. He told me he loved me, but he was with someone else. I put the phone back. I sat on the floor. I covered my face, but I did not cry. I just sat there in silence. That night I did not sleep. I watched the sky turn dark. I watched it turn light again. And I knew something had to change. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next morning, I made tea. I put 2 cups on the table. Daniel came into the kitchen. He said, "Good morning." I did not smile. I looked at his face. He sat down and drank his tea. I asked, "Who is Rachel?" He looked at me. His face changed. He said, "Why are you asking?" I said, "I saw your phone." He was quiet. Then he said, "It was nothing." I said, "Please tell me the truth." He stood up. He said, "It is a small thing. I made a mistake." I asked, "Do you love her?" He did not speak. He looked at the floor. Then he said, "I don't know." I felt cold. I looked at my cup. My hands were still. I said, "You lied to me." He said, "I did not want to hurt you." I said, "But you did hurt me." Then he took his bag and left the house. I sat alone. I did not cry. I felt tired. I looked at the door. He was gone. The house was quiet. I cleaned the cups. Then I went to the bedroom. I sat on the bed. I looked at the window. I asked myself many questions. Why did he lie? When did he start? What did I do wrong? In the evening, he came home. He said, "Can we talk?" I said, "Talk about what?" He said, "I want to fix this." I looked at him. "You were happy with her?" I said, "No." He said, "It was just talking." I looked at him. I said, "You sent her pictures. You called her my love. That is not just talking." He looked down. He said, "I know. I am sorry." That night I slept in the other room. I closed the door. I did not want to see his face. I turned off the light. I looked at the wall. My heart felt heavy, but I stayed calm. In the morning, I left the house. I went to see my friend Emma. She opened the door. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I need to talk." We sat in her kitchen. I told her everything. I said he has another woman. Her name is Rachel. I saw the messages. Emma was quiet. She gave me a cup of tea. She said, "You did not do anything wrong." I looked at my hands. They were shaking. I said, "I don't know what to do." Emma said, "Come stay here for a few days." I said, "Okay, thank you." I went back home in the afternoon. Daniel was not there. I packed my clothes. I took my phone. I took my bag. I looked around the room. It was quiet. I put my house key on the table. Then I left. I stayed at Emma's house. I slept in her small room. It was warm and clean. She gave me food. She let me rest. She did not ask too many questions. I was thankful. Daniel sent many messages. He said, "Please talk to me." He said, "I am sorry." He said, "I miss you." But I did not reply. I was not ready. After 3 days, he called me. I did not answer. Then he sent one more message. It said, "I ended things with Rachel. Please come back." I read the message, but I did not believe it. I remembered his face when I asked him the truth. He did not say sorry right away. He did not stop until I saw the messages. He did not love me the way I loved him. One day I went back to the apartment. Daniel was not home. I opened the door. I took more clothes. I took my books. I saw a photo of us on the wall. We looked happy in the photo, but it was not real. He was not honest. I put the photo in a drawer. I closed it. Then I left again. I did not cry. I did not wait. I walked slowly down the stairs. I walked outside. I took a deep breath. The air was cold, but I felt free. At night, I sat on Emma's couch. I drank warm tea. I looked at the sky from the window. I saw the stars. I felt sad, but also strong. I knew he would send more messages. I knew he would say more words, but I was not going back. The next morning, Daniel called again. He said, "Can we meet?" I said, "No, I need time." He said, "I will wait." I did not answer. Emma smiled at me. She said, "You are brave." I said, "No, I am just tired." She said, "You are still strong." I started to help around the house. I helped cook. I helped clean. I looked for a small place to stay. Emma said, "You can stay here more." I said, "Thank you, but I want my own room." I found a small flat near her house. It had one bed, one table, and a small kitchen. I moved in. It was quiet. I liked the quiet. I bought new sheets. I made tea every morning. I read simple books. I walked in the park. Daniel still tried to call. He left flowers at my door. He sent new messages. One message said, "I am not the same without you." But I said nothing. One day he waited outside my new flat. I saw him from the window. He stood there with a box. He looked around. I closed the curtain. I turned off the light. After some time, he walked away. That night, I felt sad again, but I also felt safe. I made soup. I ate alone. I cleaned the kitchen. I went to bed early. My heart was quiet. I did not know what would happen next. I did not know if I would meet someone new, but I knew this. I did not want to live with lies. I did not want a husband who said "I love you" to me and someone else at the same time. I woke up early. I opened the window. The sun was out. The sky was clear. It was a new day. I made tea. I sat at the table. My phone was on the chair. I looked at it. There were new messages from Daniel. One message said, "I am sorry." Another one said, "Can I see you?" I put the phone down. I looked out the window again. I did not know what to say. I did not want to see him, but I wanted to hear the truth from him. I wanted to ask him why he hurt me. I picked up the phone. I sent one short message. It said, "We can meet at the park one time only." He replied fast. "Thank you," he wrote. That afternoon, I put on my coat. I walked to the park. The wind was cold. The trees moved slowly. I saw Daniel waiting near a bench. He saw me and stood up. I walked to the bench. We both sat down. I did not smile. He did not smile. He said, "Thank you for coming." I said nothing. I looked at the ground. He said, "I know I did wrong." I stayed quiet. He looked at me and said, "I lied to you. I broke your trust. I am sorry." I said, "Why did you do it?" He looked down. He did not answer fast. Then he said, "I was not happy. I felt lost. I met someone new. I made a mistake." I said, "You had a wife. You had a home. Why didn't you speak to me?" He said, "I didn't want to hurt you, but I hurt you anyway." I know that. I looked at him. I said, "You looked at me every day. You said I love you, but you also said it to her." He said, "I ended it." I told her goodbye. "I want you back." I shook my head. I said, "You should have thought about that before." He said, "Please give me one more chance." I said, "No, I gave you many chances. You lied every time." He looked sad. He said, "I still love you." I stood up. I looked at him one last time.